Emotional eating, the silent obstacle in your health and fitness journey. Hey team, and welcome to this week's episode of The Inspired Show, the show that's dedicated to helping you become that best version of yourself, physically as well as mentally. Before we delve into this week's episode, don't forget, if you're not done so already, hit that subscribe button so you can stay up to date with all our latest episodes that we drop every single week. Give it a big thumbs up if you find it helpful, and don't forget to share it with somebody that may find benefit as well. And any big takeaways or any questions you have, let me know down in the comments. Don't forget, you can also join us on all our social media pages, all in the description down below, and the link to our exclusive community as well can be found in the description. So this week's episode is about emotional eating, and is it the silent obstacle when it comes to getting into shape? Now, how many of you have been trying to lose weight for years? As much as you want to lose weight, as much as you try to lose weight, you find yourself getting stuck. Now, for a lot of people, they've got a really good idea of what they should be doing. They know if they eat nutritiously more often, eat more healthily, and they move more on a regular basis, get out a little bit more, move their body a little bit more, then there's a high likelihood they're going to lose weight. So it's not knowing what they should be doing in order to lose weight, it's actually doing it. Now, one of the biggest obstacles that a lot of people overlook is the emotional side of things. Because a lot of people, we do use food and sometimes alcohol as a way to deal with certain situations. For example, if we're having a very hectic day, a very busy day, and we're getting overwhelmed, it can be so easy just to stop off in the garage on the way home and grab a drink and a bar of chocolate mindlessly. We might have had a very stressful day, and at the end of a stressful day, we crack open a bottle of wine, which then leads into the cheese and biscuits. We might have had a very, very busy week, a hectic week, and on a Friday, all we can think about is that takeaway that makes us feel good when we're eating it. Now, this is a big issue for a lot of people because they know they should be eating more healthy, they should be moving on a regular basis, but it's these emotional urges and getting gratification from the food that really does derail us. So why do we do this? Well, the first thing to understand is when we eat highly palatable foods that contain a mixture of sugars and fats, it makes us feel good, okay? It releases dopamine in the brain, which gives us that feel-good feeling. And in that moment when we're eating that Chinese or we're eating that bar of chocolate or whatever it may be, we do feel good. It's the after effects of where we feel guilty and shameful that knock us for six. The same goes for alcohol as well. A lot of people use alcohol as a way to decompress, de-stress, and it gives them that kind of moment at the end of a busy day or a busy working week. And again, it gives us that gratification, that feel-good feeling, but unfortunately, the knock-on effects of that leads to an overconsumption of calories, an overwhelming sense of guilt, and for a lot of people feel like they've absolutely ruined it. So what's the point in carrying on when they've already derailed themselves? They might as well start again tomorrow, the next day, next week, next month, or even next year. So why does emotional eating actually happen? Well, like we touched upon, the reasons why we're emotionally eating or emotionally drinking is we're looking for the gratification. Now, some of the main causes of that are going to be very front of mind. So for a lot of people, it's going to be boredom. Like, who's ever been, at the end of the day, watching some telly, and out of boredom, they're just in the cupboards, looking for something to eat, something to snack on, whilst watching some TV or watching a film. For a lot of people, it's their environment. So when they're in a certain environment, they're more likely to pick and eat than when they're not. So for example, it might be in the canteen at work, okay? It might be when you're around the in-laws, you tend to emotionally eat a little bit more. It could be around certain people, like it could be peer pressure. It could be when with your friends, with certain colleagues. It could be a way to handle and manage your stress at the end of a working day. It could be when you have an argument and you're seeking comfort out of a certain situation. These are the kind of areas of why people are emotionally eating. Now, the knock-on effect of emotional eating, whilst in the short term, it does help as a coping mechanism, it makes us feel guilty, it makes us feel shameful, and from a weight loss point of view, it leads to an overconsumption of calories. And these overconsumption of calories, time after time, massively compound, which make it difficult to not only maintain weight, but more importantly, very, very difficult to lose weight. And what tends to happen is we end up in this vicious cycle where we're not breaking the emotional eating and it's compounding. So we're actually gaining weight over the long term, which means we're going in the wrong direction. Another impact of the emotional eating is how the food we're consuming actually impacts us. Because for a lot of emotional eaters, they're not over consuming on nutrient-dense foods. Like, have you ever had a stressful day and then overindulged on broccoli and chicken? There's a high likelihood you haven't. It's usually the high sugar, high fat foods that are very easily overconsumed. They don't provide us with much nutrients whatsoever, especially with the alcohol as well. So what tends to happen is that has a massive knock-on effect on energy and mood, because when we're consuming a lot of low quality, lower nutrient foods, energy is going to be short, our tiredness is going to be increased, and we're just not going to feel very good. So then that has a massive impact on daily movement, daily activity. So then in itself means we're burning less calories, which from a weight loss point of view is not going to be helpful whatsoever. Not only are we not burning enough calories, that also impacts our daily energy and our fitness goals as well, which means it's going to slow things down massively. Now, the first part of overcoming the emotional eating is starting to recognize patterns and identifying the triggers. Now, a really great way to do this is to journal, and this is something that I recommend all my clients do. Now, there's a couple of ways you can do this. You can just generally start journaling by writing down how your day is going to start at the beginning of the day, and then at the end of the day, reflecting on how your day's been. But I would definitely combine this with a food journal as well, writing down the foods that you're eating and how you felt afterwards. And what you can then start to do is start pinpointing certain areas of your day, certain areas of week, and your environments and the people you're with, and try and identify patterns in when you end up overindulging. So for example, let's say you've noticed a pattern that every single Tuesday morning, you end up overindulging in the morning. What's happening on that Tuesday morning? It could be that you have a team meeting, and during that team meeting, they provide you with teas and coffees and biscuits and cakes and things like that, where you feel pressured into having it because everybody else is having it, and then that sets you off then for a poor day for the rest of the day when you go, do you know what, I've already overindulged in this team meeting, I might as well just carry on eating loads of crap today and I'll start fresh tomorrow. It could be maybe on a Friday night. Every single Friday, you might end up having a takeaway and a bottle of wine, and then that leads you then to carrying over the weekend. So what's happening up in the lead up to that Friday? Is it a case that you've not been eating enough during the week and you've been too restrictive, trying to lose weight? And at the back end of the week, you've not been managing your stress. So that leads into a uncontrollable urge to have that takeaway and bottle of wine. So you can start putting things in place to help you overcome those. Once you've identified these triggers and patterns, you can then start putting a plan of action into place specific to your goals and targets. So for example, with the Tuesday morning example, where we're having an overindulgence in the team meeting, it's looking at your boundaries. So making sure you've got strong boundaries and actually learning how to say no. Making sure that you've had a good breakfast beforehand so you're not actually physically hungry. And again, sticking by those boundaries and breaking that bad habit. For the end of week splurge on a Friday, if you've identified, for example, you're not eating enough during the week, make sure you're fueling your body through the week. Make sure you're planning and preparing to help you stay on track. And then when it comes to that Friday, having a plan of action for that Friday. Do you do a fake away instead and maybe have a self-care night to manage that health and fitness, but also manage those stress levels as well? Another thing I would definitely recommend that you do is focus on regular self-care. Now, regular self-care makes you feel good. Okay, it reduces stress, it reduces overwhelm, and it'll stop that cup from overflowing and help you manage your stress better. Now, when it comes to self-care, we don't want to wait until shit hits the fan before we start doing it. We want to do it actively rather than reactively. So what I'd recommend you do as part of your weekly planning is planning at least 3 self-cares per week. And it doesn't have to be anything extravagant like going for a massage or going for a shopping spree. It could be having a pamper evening. It could be running yourself a bubble bath. It could be meeting up with some friends for a coffee. It could be having a self-care night. It could be reading a book. It could be spending some time in nature. It could be anything, but make sure you prioritize your self-care. And remember, self-care isn't selfless. Now, if you work through these little things, I guarantee you it's start helping you with that emotional eating side of things and help you start seeing better results with your weight loss goals. Now, any questions as always, please don't hesitate to drop me a message.